So, funny story, the day we arrived in Rio, we got there a full week before the Olympics started because I was day one. So we wanted to settle in, get through the first 3 days, which are super overwhelming when you're just surrounded by all these crazy different stimulus all the time going on. So you want to sort of get through that for the first 3 days, and then you can concentrate just on your competition, your preparation. But the first day we got there, we sat down, had lunch, and Djokovic was sitting on our table having lunch as well. And when we saw that, I was like, this is crazy. Where am I? I've never been to anything like that before, never been to Com Games or anything like that before. So that was pretty mental. And then Rio just you just scattered around. You see people all the time. You see the US gymnastics team, you saw Kevin Durant one day. It's just, you see people all the time. Obviously people on different schedules because they're competing on different days and different times. So I guess there's a decent chance you don't cross into paths with a lot of people, especially there's 10,000 people staying in the village too. So you're not going to see everybody. But Paris, I think because a lot of the sports came in, all the second week athletes sort of came in as I left, so you didn't see a lot of them. And then a lot of the team sports was playing different fields around different cities around France. So you didn't see any soccer players at all, but all the tennis players were in there, which was pretty cool. You see Alcaraz and Andy Murray and all the swimmers, all the track athletes coming in, so it was pretty cool.
Hope they're well. Great little caviar.
Very good caviar.
After you doing this with some intro music, any of your preferred? I got. That one's all good.
Oh yeah, classic. Hey, nice.
Yeah. There we go. I got so carried away with this soundboard. And Alfio's now got more of a difficult job remembering which sound is each because there's 4 pages.
It's a lucky dip. It could be anything.
That literally
is. That up right in the middle of it.
Yeah. I should have seen him at dinner the other week. Got the soundboard out at the table.
Yeah. Honestly, if you just bang that out at dinner, I don't reckon anyone's complaining at all.
It's setting the vibes and the ambience. It's a great time. Although there are a few crazy ones in there, and they're for our segments. But as you know, we're gonna speak about you for most of our segments. So. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the SCULPTED podcast. We are privileged enough, and genuinely, I think it's amazing that we're able to get someone like you onto the podcast, Josh. So, firstly, thank you so much for being here.
No
it's
worries.
Really cool.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. Maybe, Josh, for our listeners, you can give a bit of an intro to who you are. Of course, we will go into your achievements. We'll go into what you've also recently just come back from. And everything like that. But maybe, Josh, I'll hand it over to you to give a bit of a intro to yourself.
Yeah, I'll give you the, elevator pitch. But so I've competed at 2 Olympic Games in judo. Competed 2016 in Rio. I was 18. And then kept training, kept competing throughout the next cycle. Just missed out on qualifying for Tokyo by 1 spot. Sort of went through that whole COVID, that whole crazy business trying to qualify, and went to the Commonwealth Games the following year. Was able to get bronze at the Commonwealth Games. My brother also competed at Rio, Tokyo. Went to the Commonwealth Games together, which is pretty awesome. And then just recently competed in Paris. So yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster journey, but excited to be in, get into it.
Very, very cool. Now, your brother, Nathan?
Yeah.
What's the age difference between you two?
He's 3 years older. So he, I guess, was always in the age group above me. And then when we were both in the same, seniors, competing as adults, he was always the weight above me. So we never actually competed against each other.
Okay.
The first question you get asked whenever we like talk to little kids and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, who's better, you and your brother? And
Yes.
he's not here, so I'm better today. But yeah, our careers were pretty much aligned all the way through. And then he had a pretty serious neck injury back end of last year. Had to have neck surgery.
Jeez.
It was going to be a pretty long recovery, and he just decided at that point that he was going to be done. So he transitioned like September, October last year, away from competing, started coaching, and now he's like playing a big role coaching me, and came to Paris with me as well coaching, which is pretty awesome.
That is sick.
Yeah. So it's come full circle, yeah, for sure.
What do you like as a coach?
I mean, he's tough. So I guess my whole life, my mum was my first judo coach when I was 5.
That's cool.
And my dad was my coach from when I was 12. He coached my brother and I from pretty much 12 or 13 until like even still today, to be honest. So I guess it wasn't a massive transition going from like your dad telling you what to do to your brother telling you what to do.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, I think because we've got such a good relationship, it works pretty well. Like I respect him a lot. He respects me a lot. So it's okay. But yeah, he can definitely get away with saying stuff to me that he probably wouldn't get away with saying to other people from our judo club that he's coaching. But there's not too much I can say about it.
Have you been able to differentiate between family time and like the training? How does that lead into each other?
Yeah, I think when we were younger, it was tough. Like when we were first sort of started to compete at a higher level, started like fighting for Australia, 15 or 16, judo was starting to be a lot more serious. It was definitely a challenge because, I mean, you guys would know, if you're getting told what to do by your parents and then you go to training, sports like your outlet, sports like the place where you leave all your problems at school or whatever other stuff's going on behind, and then it's just still like your mum or dad yelling at you and going.
Yeah.
And as judo got more serious, training gets harder as well. So you're not always going to be on great terms with your coach. Your coach is like spraying you after training and stuff like that, which is always a challenge. But I think we just always knew that they wanted the best for us. So we managed to, I think it was probably better that there was my brother and I, because we could sort of just like moan about my dad separately when we got home if we had some problems. But
so now that your brother's coaching, you're moaning to.
Yeah, I just complain about everyone at the moment. So I think mum pulled away from coaching probably around 15, 16 when judo started to get more serious, and she was just mum. And then I think when she did that, it sort of helped us balance home life a little bit more. That when we went to training, we treated our dad like he was our coach, not as our dad. So we could probably get away with saying more stuff to him than other kids probably would have. And we were good too. So you get a little bit more say of what you're doing, I guess. But I think as we got a little bit older, we sort of found the balance a little bit better. And then I guess as we were traveling more often, our dad didn't typically travel with us. We'd travel with an Australian coach that lives in Melbourne. So that sort of broke it up a little bit too, that he could, I guess, shift the balance a little bit. That dad would be our coach when we're at home and do all our training here. And then when we went overseas, the national coach, Daniel, would sort of take over most of the things that we were doing away.
Very interesting. Okay. So that's such a unique dynamic because literally your whole family is in and amongst it. Are there many other, even in similar codes or sports, are there many other like dynamics like that you know of in Australia?
I mean, in judo, definitely not. Like when we were younger, there were other kids that their parents were well known in judo, but I mean, to give some context, my mum went to the Olympics. She competed at the 1988 Olympics. She doesn't like people to know what year it was to figure out. It was a little while ago. Dad was her coach, and Dad coached that Olympic team as well. So when my brother and I were sort of growing up, everybody knew that we were the sons of Rob and Kerry. A lot of pressure on us, whether we felt it or not. There was definitely a lot of expectation that we would be really good too.
Thankfully, you were.
Thankfully, we turned out pretty good, but I think there probably wasn't too many other people in judo that had, I guess, parents. Now there's a couple more because I guess it's a pretty niche sport. Everybody that's good wants their kids to grow up doing the same thing that they did as well. Whether or not they get to an Olympics or anything doesn't matter. But I guess as I've got a little bit older, I've met a few more people that were coached by their parents, and it's really similar experiences. But I think just judo being such a small sport that the community is really small, everybody knows each other. We definitely felt that pressure when we were younger for sure, because everybody knew who we were when we were like 10 years old fighting my first nationals, and everyone's like, oh, this kid's going to be a gun. And I'm like, am I? Like, I don't know. I think I'm going to be all right, but I don't know. Like, you have no idea when you're that young.
Become more serious at an early age for you then?
Yeah, for sure. I was really competitive and I wanted to win all the time, and I was a bad loser. I just was super competitive at everything. But judo wasn't everything. I played soccer as well. I played soccer till I was about 14 or 15.
Wow.
To be honest, I always thought I would go down that road and try to play soccer at a high level, but I think just judo was the thing we always did together. It was the thing, even if I didn't sort of appreciate it at the time, we always went to judo together. It was me and my brother. My parents were always there. If we had like late nights, we went to weekends, we traveled together. So I think that was just something we enjoyed doing together, and I was good at it. I was a lot better at it than I was at soccer, and I like the individual sport. I like fighting people. So all those things sort of shifted me in that direction eventually.
Very cool. I've got one question that is like very ignorant of me, so bear with me.
So
Alfio, can we get a cauliflower ear? Because I'm familiar with, especially in Brazil, if I'm correct, this is a sign of like elite. Well, I feel like that's not from fighting. But am I right with saying that you got yours drained?
Yes. Yeah. So essentially, I don't know all the science around it, but essentially you get contact to your ear. You see it a lot in wrestling, judo, rugby even, when they're getting a lot of contact to the ear. Not necessarily getting hit, but just sort of rubbed. It just sort of fills up with blood. You stick a needle in there. They try to drain the blood out. Don't recommend it. It's bad. It's a pretty horrendous feeling.
Serious.
And then eventually, I guess, if you drain it and you rest and you never do judo again, it probably goes back to looking good again. Okay. But if you keep training, like everybody eventually goes back to training, he keeps getting hit. Eventually, it sort of just like gets rock hard, and like mine are now rock hard and they can't puff up anymore. So,
okay.
I don't know. Different people sort of think it's like the coolest thing ever and it makes you look super tough. I'd rather go without needles in my ear.
Yeah, that's true.
And the first time I had it, I was maybe 12 or 13, which was,
wow.
It was pretty grim. So, but yeah, I think I've come out relatively unscathed. Some is, and they're just like hitting him on purpose, like.
I could imagine in like South America.
Yeah, they just
the regulation
horrible.
And the health and safety.
I mean,
being priority.
It sounds bad, but like if I go to train and I see someone with a fat ear, like you're gonna try to hit just to movie. It's horrible, but it goes full circle. It happens to you, to someone else. Yeah,
that is interesting. So you mentioned there like the repetitive cycle of training it.
Yeah.
How are your shins?
Shins are actually pretty good.
Okay, in other codes, that's more of a like. Spot that's hit.
Well, you can't kick or punch in judo, so you can do foot sweeps and stuff, which I guess when you're fighting other good people and you don't get good timing, you end up just like kicking people in the leg, which you can do it, I guess, a little bit on purpose too. It's definitely not like MMA where you're smacking someone's shin, but they get used to it eventually. You get little bruises and stuff, but it's not a massive deal.
All right.
What's your greatest strength, would you say?
Greatest strength? As in physically, like when I'm competing?
Yes.
I'd say like fitness condition was always a really big thing for me, especially when I was younger. I was always pretty small, hadn't developed a lot. I wasn't super strong. When I was really young and fighting seniors as well, a lot of the guys were a lot stronger than me. So I think I knew that by the fight going longer and longer and longer, I had a better chance of winning. So I was just really fit, had a really good condition, and I knew if I could get the match to go like to extra time, then I could win.
Yes.
Almost all the time.
Wow.
So, in that case, was that something that you identified as being like a competitive advantage that you really learned into?
Yeah, from I guess a younger age for sure. Because I was fighting as a senior when I was 17, 18, when I competed at the Olympics, the only way I could beat those guys was if the match went 4 or 5 minutes. In the first minute or 2 minutes, I was hanging on for dear life because they're just bigger, stronger, way more experience, way better technically as well. So I just knew that if I could hang in for long enough, then eventually I could like even the score a little bit. But I guess as I got older, more developed, started doing a lot more strength training, that sort of evened out a little bit. So I didn't have to rely so heavily on that. But even still now, that's still, I guess, probably my biggest physical strength anyway.
And I can imagine with experience, you probably learn how to use that to your advantage even more. When you're young, it's probably, it's your strength, but it's like, how do I apply it when the pressure's on?
Yeah, well, when you're young, it's the idea is just like hang on for dear life, and then it's going to be a little bit better in 3 minutes' time. Yeah. But eventually, you start figuring out that you can deliberately, I guess, fight in a way that can let the match go on and get the other person tired. Not just wait for them to get tired, but hopefully, like force it with a little bit of pressure and intensity. Yeah.
I'm just going to jump in here. Just like for the people who don't know what judo is,
Oh yes, thank you.
it's in the sort of wrestling realm.
Yeah.
Could you make the distinction between jiu-jitsu, wrestling, whether it be Greco-Roman or freestyle wrestling?
Look at him
and judo?
flexing. He knows what it is.
That's just,
Yeah.
for the general public.
So I guess
Love this.
judo is probably a mix of both. So you wear the same uniform as jiu-jitsu. You wear a gi. I guess jiu-jitsu is probably 80% submissions, 20% standing takedowns. Judo is probably the opposite. It's about 80% throws, takedown, 20% submissions, give or take. Wrestling, I guess, different uniform. Freestyle wrestling is probably the most similar to judo. You can grab the leg, so you can do like double leg takedowns and stuff like that. There's no submissions, just throws and pins. So I guess there's a lot of crossover. I've trained in all three as well. And there's definitely a lot of crossover without having to try to be better at jiu-jitsu. I can still just do judo in a jiu-jitsu class and be pretty good at it, and same as wrestling. But yeah, I guess they're all like slightly different in a way as well.
Have you ever done any sort of stand-up? And would you ever like go into that sort of realm, like the MMA realm? Because we were speaking about that before.
I mean, a little bit for fun, but never seriously. I think I've put my body through judo, so I'm definitely still keen to go another 4 years in judo. I'd be 30 after the next Olympics. If I decided that I was done with judo, it's just a huge transition then to go from not starting from scratch. Obviously, you have a huge base. Like, you don't need to practice your grappling all that much. It's just striking. But at 30, do you want to then start like a 6 to 8 year process to be good in the UFC? And yeah, I don't know. Cutting weight for that long as well. And I think it's probably just too much, to be honest. I'd never say never, but I think if I wanted to switch over and do MMA, I'd want to be gun. Like, I want to fight in the UFC. I'd want to be top 10 in the world. And I know that to do that would take a long time. And I don't know if I've got that long willing and able to do that either, to be honest.
Sure. What would you say makes judo, in your opinion, better than all the other wrestling categories that I just
Yeah.
told you about?
I mean, I'm a little bit biased, I'm not going to lie. But, I mean, the fact it's in the Olympics is a massive distinction between judo and jiu-jitsu. Like, for real, like, I mean, jiu-jitsu is definitely easier on your body. There's a lot less impact, way less throwing, which is a lot easier, especially for adults to do, because it's hard to rock up to a judo class in your 20s and get thrown 50 times on the mat if you've never been thrown before. You never played rugby or a contact sport. It's not that easy to do that. But the Olympics is a really big part of it. It's you get to compete at the pinnacle sporting event in the world, I guess. Compared to wrestling, it's just personal preference, to be honest. I like judo. It's a bit more of like a martial art, as opposed to wrestling it's like man on man. Like, there's no uniform. It's just like you go at each other. So it's all personal preference. I've always done judo. Always really liked it. I could definitely compete in wrestling or jiu-jitsu as well for fun, but I think either it's a combination of, I guess, like the martial art respect part of judo is really cool too, and then the fact it's like an Olympic sport, I think, is probably, and it's massive. Like, jiu-jitsu is cool. You get to do submissions and stuff, but everyone wants to see massive throws. That's like the cool thing that everyone wants to see. You want to see someone get thrown, fly through the air, land on their back, and that's pretty much all judo is. So
yeah, for sure. It comes from a Japanese background, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That, like, hence the honor and like the more respect of the martial arts.
Yeah.
Thing. But since we're on the topic of the Olympics, do you mind describing your experiences at Rio 2016?
Yeah, so I graduated high school end of 2015, and then sort of got the chance to fight as a senior for the first time. It was going to be just for experience. They thought, we'll just throw you into a couple tournaments, see how you go, but not really any intention of trying to qualify for Rio, to be honest, and had some success really quickly. Managed to qualify for Rio in about April 2016, which was pretty mental, to be honest. And at the time, I couldn't appreciate how big that actually was, because it was just this cool thing as an 18-year-old. I'm like, man, I'm so cool. I get to go to the Olympics, stuff like that. You can't really ever appreciate it. And it wasn't that it was an easy process by any means. I've been training for a really long time. I've been training full time since I was about 15, but definitely hadn't gone through loads of different obstacles in terms of injuries and big setbacks and stuff like that as well. So definitely took it for granted, to be honest. And went to Rio with a little bit of guess, a young, dumb, naive confidence and thought I could beat anyone and didn't. Lost first right to a guy from Uzbekistan. He ended up winning a bronze medal. So,
That's scary.
yeah?
Uzbekistan.
Uzbekistan, yeah.
Oh, I've got friends from it.
Uzbeks are scary people.
I'm trembling thinking about them.
Boxing too, though.
Yeah.
Boxing too.
So he beat me first round. He ended up beating me by armbar. So my arm was in pieces. I had to come home. I was in a sling for like 4 or 5 weeks or
You
something.
broke it?
Hey?
You broke it?
Just tore a bunch of ligaments in my elbow.
Oh my gosh.
But last I was like, okay, I'm young. The experience was amazing. We got to stay in Rio for the whole Olympics. Like I competed on the first day. Our judo team was day 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we were all done. We stayed for another 10 days after that. So that was mental, as you can imagine. As like an 18-year-old, you're in Rio with no responsibilities, and you're wearing this accreditation where even though you're not famous, everyone thinks you're famous anyway.
Yeah.
So that was cool. That was a lot of fun.
The Olympics, then it's still almost like naive. It can
Yeah.
get you a certain way, but then,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think like not losing that's quite important.
Outfit behind the scenes, like Instagram. Do you reckon you could do like an Instagram story and tag Josh in it as well?
Oh, okay.
Just like on mine. Oh wait, sorry, I've got my phone here. If you find Josh on Instagram, please use tag him. His is Josh _ Katz.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a little video.
Yeah, when we're speaking.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. We'll resume where you were.
He's talking about the experiences and the career.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Did you land on something as well?
No, I don't think.
Okay. Maybe I can. You know it.
No,
All
Is there-
zeros.
Yeah, yeah.
Zero.
The safest of safe. No one will guess it.
Keep that in.
But yeah, keep that in because that is actually so safe that he had to ask, right? If it was unsafe, then he wouldn't have had to ask. Okay. Rio 2016. Firstly, you mentioned it was like crazy for an 18-year-old. That would have been, and you said that your brother was the second youngest. Is that correct?
Yes, he was
21.
21. So even as 21,
That's young.
it was mental for both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. But because we qualified together, we were the first brothers from Australia to ever go to the same Olympics in judo as well. So
Wow.
that was really cool. Obviously, it was a dream. We'd grown up together, and
Yeah.
also, I guess, being siblings, you get a bit of attention in the Australian team as well. I think there were six sets of siblings, but you're in the company of like Kate and Bronte Campbell. So like the siblings that are there have a lot of attention, and then there was a bit of attention on us. So I guess not only were we really young and inexperienced, but we had quite a lot of media in the lead up as well, which sort of made the whole thing even more like, whoa, this is a massive deal. Yeah.
And you were both so young.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess had never been to anything like Commonwealth Games, hadn't competed at a senior world championship before.
Wow.
I'd only fought like on 1 or 2 sort of like world tour events as a senior. So I sort of went into the Olympics thinking I got no idea what to expect here. And the first day we arrived in Rio, you get dropped off into the village. The village is mental. Like it's all the stories you hear about how big and massive everything is. It's all true. Like you get dropped off and it's like its own suburb. You need a bus to go from your accommodation to the food hall to the gym. I think it's like normally like 2.5 Ks, like a loop around the whole place. So it's absolutely massive, and all the Australian team stays in one building together. So you're just surrounded by all these athletes you watched on TV, like swimmers, athletics, basketball players. Everybody's staying in the same accommodation. So it's just crazy, yeah.
Not to call out footballers, but it is a favourite pastime of ours.
What is?
Well, I've heard some stories about footballers at the Olympics. They kind of they have the financial means to stay in hotels. Now, not naming names, but I'm imagining there probably would have been some footballers in 2016 from the Australian team. There's probably some in there, right? Who was some big players and
No,
definitely
but
not
they
naming.
don't. The Olympic football team.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
the 23s.
23s.
No, that's right. Oh, but
23s.
who would have been
overage
2016?
players.
Yeah, but like there probably was some, I don't know, like imagine nowadays who's in the under 23s. There probably would be some under 23 players who are definitely staying in hotels. Not that I know one.
Were there any athletes that stayed in their own hotel?
In Rio,
Yeah.
I don't think any of the Australians, I think all the Australians really get around the fact that you get to stay together.
Interesting.
There's not as many as you'd think. Honestly, it's like the US basketball team or maybe a couple of tennis players stay offsite, but it's almost everybody stays in the village, which I think is pretty cool.
Because, like you said, that's probably the best part of going to the Olympics as well. That's that atmosphere.
For sure. I know in Paris, I mean, I bumped into a lot of different like famous tennis players and stuff like that. And I guess if your sport is in different cities, like I know in football, they're competing not just in Rio, but they're going to Sao Paulo or Brasilia and other stuff. So they might not all be staying in the village because they have to travel a little bit. But I think if you can stay, it might be a little bit different if you're one of that top tier famous level athlete. Like I know Rafael Nadal was staying in the village in Paris and he was getting swamped by people. Every time he went anywhere, everyone wants a photo. So I guess that could be a little bit tiring, but that's also pretty cool. It's other Olympians think you're special, which is, I can't relate personally, but I think that would be pretty cool.
That is really cool. So, Alfio, can you get up Nicola McDermott? Friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod?
No, actually, she used to go to our school.
Oh, cool.
So she got quite a lot of media attention for high jump.
Yes.
Maybe you saw. She also...
Two-time Olympic medalist now.
I believe, yeah. Do you know her?
Not personally, I know of her, yeah. She's amazing.
Yeah, she's really, really good. She, Central Coast.
2 times silver and bronze.
Yeah. And this year, she was bronze. Is that correct, Alfie? Can you see if she's bronze?
It was at the 2023 World Athletics Championships.
Yeah.
It wasn't that good.
No, but she was at
silver in silver in Tokyo, silver in Paris,
Yeah. Very, very cool. She got a lot of media attention. She's very outwards with her religion. So we went to a Christian school, Alfio, Charles, and I. And there's a lot of videos of her like singing worship songs. I think Alfio sent them to you before. Very, very outwardly spoken about her religion, which really, really cool. She gets a lot of praise. Actually, Alfio, if you look at that far right video, it's I think she got like kind of famous for journaling.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Like after each jump that she does, she comes back and she sort of like writes in her notebook. And it's crazy to me. Like it's such a different experience, I guess. Also completely different event, but she's just writing like how she felt about it, visualize. It's just really interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the same in judo, but in professional sport, what Nick and I have found, there's a stigma around any of that sort of like, I wouldn't say emotional side, but sort of more holistic side of health. You can't like, there's no place to be weak or be in like emotional in that setting. So it is amazing. That
I think different sports too have different stigmas attached to it. Something like judo too. No one's getting caught dead journaling in between matches and stuff like that. But I mean, that's starting to definitely break down too. There's definitely parts of the world that are much less open to talking about mental health and well-being than others. But I think in 2024, most people are pretty aware that if you're competing at a really high level in sport, you're dealing with some sort of mental challenges and obstacles at some point. And I think just like pretending they don't exist is also dumb. It's not particularly helpful for anyone.
Yeah. Imagine if you saw Khabib like with some glasses and skull lashes before.
You had an athlete.
For sure.
And you're coming back at it.
Yeah. In Rio, there was an apartment. We had 6 of us in the room. It was me and my brother. There was the 2 other judo guys. And there was 2 boxers. And by day 4, all 6 of us were out.
Okay.
So we all were out every night.
Perfect.
Gosh. Okay, so we're back on. Alfio, you had one thought there that we could talk about on cam. We'll leave that up to interpretation.
Few chat off camera, but no worries.
What were you thinking, Alfio?
I was just wondering if you saw, like, you spoke about Rafael Nadal. Did you say anyone like LeBron James or what other celebrities did you get to see?
So, funny story, the day we arrived in Rio, we got there a full week before the Olympics started because I was day 1. So we wanted to like settle in, get through like the first 3 days, which are super overwhelming when you're just like surrounded by all these crazy different like stimulus all the time going on. So you want to sort of get through that for the first 3 days and then you can concentrate just on your competition and your preparation. But the first day we got there, we like sat down, had lunch, and Djokovic was sitting like on our table having lunch as well. And when we saw that, I was like, this is crazy. Like, this is, where am I? Like, I've never been to anything like that before, never been to Com Games or anything like that before. So that was pretty mental. And then Rio just sort of, you just scattered around. You see people all the time. You see like the US gymnastics team, you saw Kevin Durant one day. Like, it's just, you see people all the time. Obviously, people on different schedules because they're competing on different days and different times. So I guess there's a decent chance you don't cross into paths with a lot of people, especially there's like 10,000 people staying in the village too. So you're not going to see everybody. But Paris, I think because a lot of the sports came in. All the second week athletes sort of came in as I left, so you didn't see a lot of them. And then a lot of the team sports was playing different fields around different cities around France. So you didn't see like any soccer players at all, but like all the tennis players were in there, which was pretty cool. You see like Alcaraz and Andy Murray and all the swimmers, all the track athletes coming in. So it was pretty cool. The basketball, I don't think they stayed in the village. I don't think they were playing in Paris. I think they were playing in different cities around France. So didn't see too many, but it's just crazy. Like every time you go to either the gym or the dining hall or anywhere, you're going to see somebody that you've seen on TV play once before, which is pretty cool.
Could I ask, did you meet the most notorious of all celebrities, Ray Gun?
Ray Gun. So
Big ups, hope she's well, friend of the pod. Yeah.
honestly, me, I actually knew her before.
Because Macquarie,
So-
she goes to Macquarie Uni.
Not from Macquarie Uni. So my brother went to like a mentoring 3-day seminar at the AIS, and he was like invited as a mentor for some year 12 leadership students and stuff like that. And she was there as another mentor, qualified for the Olympics and competing. So he knew her quite well. And then we had sort of a media day type promo video with the AOC earlier this year. So we spent a couple hours together, like knew her pretty well. I mean, I don't know her that well, but like at least on pretty good terms. And I saw her at the opening ceremony. Hey, how you going? Yeah, awesome. Like, best of luck. Good luck. How's your brother? Oh, awesome. And then I was back in Australia by the time she competed. So I saw her on TV and just exploded. Like, it's crazy. I mean, I think she had a couple hundred, maybe a couple thousand followers before the Olympics, and now massive, which is mental. So
I'm a massive fan, personally.
she's actually super nice girl, really intelligent. Just just what? How that whole thing played out.
Changing overnight.
Yeah, and I mean, whether it's positive or negative, like hopefully she's definitely smart enough that she can use it as a positive. Like, I think she's a lecturer at university.
Yeah.
She's a PhD student. So if she wants to use her platform as like a positive influence, positive impact, she can be amazing if she wants to be, which I'm sure she will. I don't think she's going to become this influencer type person. I don't think that's her vibe at all.
I think 260,000 is it, Alfio? You just go back?
200,000.
200,000?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
big ups.
in Olympic sports in Australia is
Yeah.
massive.
Yeah. I honestly, big ups to her because she's gone through it. Undeserved, I believe. Like, I think that's so unfair, but also it's like, it's undeserved but deserved because it's like, she's obviously done it. That's the sport. You have to be okay with that happening. But like, I feel like it's very difficult to actually deal with it. Like, that's such a rare exception. She's literally 1 in 8 billion.
The thing I felt most sorry for her was there was so much misinformation spread about it. Like, there were just blatant lies saying that her husband selected her and she's on the board. It's like it's nonsense. Like,
100%.
people that think that the AOC is corrupt or like the Anna Mears is corrupt in selecting her, it's just crazy. Like, there is not one bit of bias in selection for Olympic teams and stuff like that. Like, she got in the same way other people got in. Whether people agree with it or not, it's irrelevant. Like, go and dance then. If you think you're better than her, go and qualify and you'll go to the Olympics instead. But it's all people complaining that like dance in a nightclub on Friday night that think, oh, I can dance better than that. It's like, go and do it then. Like, no one's stopping you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think Joe Rogan was probably the biggest person for spreading that misinformation. Not that it was probably his explicit fault. He was probably just repeating what he'd heard.
So you're calling out Joe Rogan?
Yeah, Joe Rogan. Charles.
That's unlike him to spread misinformation.
No.
Joe Rogan, if you are listening, get a producer like Alfio who actually does his research. So, yeah.
Don't get me into this.
Well, if Joe Rogan wants to settle this,
She like Joe.
yeah, big ups, Joe. If he does want to settle this in the ring, Charles, I know a guy. So just found that.
Give me 8 to 9 months to get back, and
Just me. No, Joe and I we're on good terms, but I'll outsource it like the businessman.
Obviously, there's so much going on. What was what changed between when you were 18 in Rio to when you went to Paris in kind of how you approached it all?
So I think I had gone through a lot of obstacles and challenges between Rio and Paris. Relative to, I guess, how the rest of my career played out, Rio was a pretty smooth run, to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
And then had a lot of really serious injuries between Rio and Tokyo. Went through COVID, traveling during the pandemic, doing hotel quarantine a bunch of times, trying to qualify. Came down to the last tournament, missed out by 1 spot. hotel quarantine again, lockdown, that whole business. Managed to get back again, and after the Com Games, qualifying started. And qualifying for judo for the Olympics goes over 2 years. So it's essentially all your best results over 2 years sort of combined for your ranking. Pretty soon after Com Games, preparing for the World Championships, I broke my leg at training. So I was out for about 5 months, got back, got one of the best results I'd ever had in my career, was back on track, got thrown at training, landed on my shoulder, had to have shoulder surgery, tore my AC. So I got back again, it was like all the rehabs rushed too. When it's like, normally they say we're going to give you 3-4 months to get back. It's like, okay, I need to compete in 3 months. Like, not back to training, I'm competing in 3 months because it's the pressure of you need to qualify. Got back again, really good shape, great results at the end of last year. Start of this year, completely blew my ACL out in a training camp in Melbourne. We're at a training camp in Melbourne, and it was I was in a qualifying position for Paris. I remember this sort of media team came to training that day and was like, we're just going to do a couple of shoots with like people that are going to go to Paris, get some content. I was like, yeah, cool. And they were like, how do you feel about this year? I was like, look, everything's going great. Just got to stay healthy. Just got to keep doing what I'm doing. Nothing crazy at all, and everything's going to work out. And just forgot to touch wood or something, honestly, because that night they'd come to training and they filmed us training, and just during one of the sparring rounds, just like leg got tangled, fell backward, knee just like blew. And I was like, oh, this is bad. Like, really bad pain. Physio was there. Did the test, ACL test. It's like, I'm pretty confident your ACL's gone. So I'm like, okay, so got the scan, saw my doctor. Obviously, ACL surgery, you're looking at 9-10 months to get back to competition for something like judo. The Olympics is 6.5 months away, 7 months away. I haven't qualified yet either. I'm in a good spot, but I haven't qualified yet. So basically, I had to get back to compete in 3 months, which was like the latest I could push it back for the next tournament to fight. It was a really important tournament. Managed to get back in 3 months, essentially doing no judo. I would go to judo. I would do like some drilling, some technical work, fully strapped up, doing loads of gym.
Are you in pain during this time?
Yeah, always. Like, always. Pain every day. But just trying to keep it as stable as possible. As long as my knee doesn't give away, it should be all right. But I couldn't do any sparring because I just knew if I would spar, it would be bad. So I got to the competition, fought okay, lost for bronze. Was enough to get closer, but not quite enough. So I come back, started training again. Every time I was training, just like knee completely gave way on me. It happened like 3 times, I think, in 2 weeks. So I was like, okay, I need a break now. I can't compete for a while. Sort of just how the whole thing worked out with qualifying in tournaments. They basically said you need to compete in 2 weeks and then in 3 weeks, back-to-back tournaments. If you don't compete, if you don't make the final of both, you won't go to the games. Like, it was super simple, black and white. And I'd missed out on Tokyo, so I knew what that felt like. And I never really said it to anyone before, but I was pretty confident if I missed out on Paris, then I would be done. I wouldn't keep going. It was so hard to get back after missing Tokyo the first time that I didn't think I would be able to get through and want to get back again to like go 4 more years again.
Is that physically or mentally?
Mentally. Like, physically I was okay, but not okay, but I could recover from an injury.
Surgery is an injury. Yeah.
But I didn't feel like I could get through that disappointment and want to get back again. So that was all now really real in my head and pretty scary because I'm like, this could be my last couple of tournaments. And I went to them in really good shape. I was really fit, really strong, but still couldn't do any hard judo training. So no idea how this is going to go. The first fight, I could just knee gives way and that's it. It's the Olympics done, to be honest. So I went to these 2 tournaments, just me and my brother. Went to these 2 tournaments, got to the first one, made the final. My brother was like, look, we need to fight again next week. You're fighting someone good in the final. I reckon we just rest your knee, like play it safe, and we'll try next week. I was like, all right. So it was tough too because I gave away the chance to maybe win gold, which would have been enough to qualify. But just in case my knee gives way, don't do it. We'll fight again next week. I was like, all right.
That's all good. That's a Google Calendar.
That's all right.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. And so the following week, we went to the Ivory Coast. That was like the last tournament in the Ivory Coast, other side of the world, West Africa. Not on anyone's holiday destination. Wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
But so it's just, me and my brother went to this tournament, had to get to the final again. Basically just hoping that everything works out. Loads of tape, loads of pain relief.
Oh, gosh.
And just hope that it works out.
Does that put a target on it if you're taping?
A bit. Like, you wear pants in judo, so...
Okay.
But I guess everybody that was trying to qualify for the Olympics knew that I had a bad knee. They'd seen me not at any of the tournaments, seen me, I guess, pictures in my. I didn't say what my injury was, but people knew I had a bad knee because everyone in Australia saw me blew my knee out at this training session. So word in Australia, everybody knew. But then the only reason you would not be competing at all the Olympic qualifying events is if you're injured because I haven't qualified yet. So I'm not that stupid that I'm just going to roll the dice at the very last tournament. So we went to this last tournament, Ivory Coast.
Get some intro music since you're back.
Yeah, well, yeah, Elevate or whatever that one is.
Oh, not bad.
No.
All right, easy. Ivory Coast. I think we're talking about the competition there, yeah?
Yeah, so just me and my brother went to the Ivory Coast. Crazy place. Very like eye-opening place as well. That would be. Yeah, very much, I guess, what you would expect, I guess, is the only way to put it. Went to this competition, managed to get through 3 matches, make the final. Knew I had qualified after that, and it was done. So that was like a pretty cool day because it was also, I guess, just me and my brother too, which we sort of looked at each other a few times the couple of days we were there and just laughed. Like, where are we? Like, what is going on here? Like, how did we get here when 9 months ago I was like, I should be like preparing for the games right now. But anyway, we're here now. So our celebration was pretty much hide in our hotel room and order a pizza in because we were a little bit scared to go out, to be honest.
You would be.
But you said that if you hadn't qualified, you'd probably give up. Did you feel the pressure going into that tournament?
Yeah, for sure, massively. Like, I hadn't said that to anyone. I think my brother probably knew. My parents probably didn't know. I hadn't said it to anyone just because all you can do is focus on, I'm going to go to the games, You can't think about or talk about the possibility of not going. But I think I knew that if this didn't work out, then I wouldn't be able to get back from it again. Maybe, I mean, you never know. Maybe I didn't think I would have got back the first time after Tokyo. I thought I might stop and manage to get back. So maybe I might have, but yeah, definitely those tournaments were terrifying, to be completely honest. Like, I've never gone to competitions scared of what's going to happen. You lose. Like, it's not like MMA where you can get hurt, really. You just lose if the worst outcome is you're disappointed, which is tough. But at these competitions, especially the last one, Ivory Coast, where I had some harder fights, I was just so scared that it would be out of my control too. Like, if I fought really well, but if my knee goes, I'm in no control. It's not a pain thing. I could deal with any pain. I've taken so much pain relief or whatever, and also tolerance, like under adrenaline. I'm not going to lose because I'm in pain. But if my knee gives way and I fall down, I can't get up. That's it. So that was in my head the whole day, and I fought terrible in that competition because I was just so scared to lose, but just had to win. Like, it didn't matter how ugly it was, like have to win. So that was a cool day. It was a really special day, I guess, that we got to experience together, just the two of us in some brick basketball stadium in the car park of Ivory Coast. Literally, yeah. So yeah, we came back and I knew I'd qualified then. So I guess it was a very short celebration because then you're 6 weeks out from the Olympics. You have to prepare for the Olympics again. And the Olympic prep went as well as it could have. I'd had so many issues all year training, couldn't train properly. And for the Olympics, I had 6 weeks without one issue of training. Like, couldn't spar at all.
Cool. So your knee's still susceptible to...
Yeah. I knew if I sparred, then it would just go. So I would just train. So my skills were really good. Tactics were good, but I guess as good as they can be without actually fighting someone. Super fit, super strong. It went to the Olympics really confident. I actually truly thought that I could beat anyone at the Olympics, but I knew that I would struggle if it went multiple rounds. Like, I thought round 1 I could beat anyone and was really confident against the guy I fought. But I knew if it got to round 3, 4, 5 matches to win a medal, like, this is going to be tough. Like, I don't know if my body's going to hold up, but worry about that if we get there. If I'm in round 4, I also don't care how bad my knee is at that point either. So I actually fought at the Olympics, and it was the most, I guess, free I had been all year since I'd hurt my knee. Because at that point, the worst thing that can happen is you lose. Like, I'm here. This is what I worked so hard to get for. It's been 8 years since I went to the Olympics, missed out on Tokyo, all the other injuries I'd had to get there. I'm like, the last thing I'm going to do is be scared today. This is the day I've wanted to be I've wanted to be here for so long, and you fight scared, and then you lose. You're like, man, I wish I had enjoyed that a little bit more. I'm like, screw that. I'm gonna have like the best competition of my whole life, and if it turns to shit and you lose, so be it. And I was fight one of day one of the Olympics, so
Wow.
I think comp started at 10 a.m. 9:45. They call Josh Katz, opponent from Italy, go through. You stand behind a curtain. There's like a volunteer. She's standing there. You can hear the crowd, but it's just a curtain. She's like, look, relax for 5 minutes. We're going to just chill, and then the camera's going to come in. I'm like, no worries. So I'm just standing there. I'm pretty relaxed with my coach. I actually feel really good because I'm just happy to be here. Not happy to be here in the sense of I don't care if I really want to win this match. But I'm also...
gratitude, like you feel grateful to be there?
For sure. And I really took the Rio experience for granted, I think. So being back at Paris, that whole week, I was just trying to soak it up. Like soaking up, being in the village, going with other people, like other people from other athletes, doing media, all sorts of stuff, the things that you're like, this is really cool and I want to enjoy this. But not at all just happy to be here. I was like, you only get one chance to do well at this competition. And no one cares how injured you are. No one cares who's got what injury, how bad your prep was. At the end of the day, whoever wins is the best. Like, no one cares what happened. You don't get an excuse after. So standing for that like 5 minutes, I was really relaxed with my coach. And then the official comes back in. She's like, all right, normally you're wearing like some slides, jacket or whatever. She's like, slides off, jacket off, earphones out. No, you just like cameras are coming in. You got to be ready to fight. So cameras come in, you stand there and it's just 10 minutes, just standing there. Like crowd's going mental. They're doing like a countdown on the big screen. And I'm just thinking, this is what? Like, this is crazy. So, that's like a long 10 minutes. Long and short as well. You're standing there what feels like an hour, but it's gone in 5 seconds as well.
Are you fighting with you as well?
Yeah, standing right behind you.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're not really looking at each other. I know who he is. I've trained with him before.
Yeah.
I think I can beat him. He thinks he can beat me. And they call you out. You stand in front of the curtain for about 30 seconds. That's sort of where like the Channel 7 cameras and stuff come on you. You're looking around. You're like, okay, this is a pretty big arena. There's a lot of people here. It's pretty loud, pretty bright. And then they're like, all right, go out. And you walk out to the mat and you fight.
Wow.
So fought as well as I guess could have. And then just lost in golden score. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's tough. I mean, you come off and granted you always want to win, but the hardest part is just that it's over so quickly. It's like fight one as well. You waited 8 years. I'm 26. So I've been doing judo since I was 5. It's not all for this one day, but it's sort of all for this one day. Like every judo session you've ever done, every training session is like for this one day, and then it's done. 5 minutes of fighting. You're at the back, you do a couple of interviews, and then you're sitting on the warm-up mat with your coach and your brother, and that's it. Wait 4 more years. So
that's ridiculous.
It's
but it's almost good that you've had both the early Olympics experience and then missing out to, like you said, even though it's a short amount of time, you really were able to kind of like take yourself out of the moment and like recognize that it is special and
for sure
to sort of embrace it and enjoy that.
Yeah, I mean it definitely takes you a bit to get over it. Like even though I could reflect and be grateful for it, the first like couple of weeks are tough. Like every time you think about judo, all you think about is this, man, I don't know if I'll ever get that chance again. Like maybe you get it in 4 years, maybe you don't get it again in 4 years. So it's definitely hard, and it's a transition to figure out where you're going to go, and dealing with an injury too. You can't exactly get back into training and start like using exercise as a release either. But yeah, I enjoyed the whole experience for sure. It was draining for sure, but after 4 or 5 days after I competed, we left the village, and like I needed to get away. Like I was just fried. Like I needed to turn my phone off.
Dealing with the injury for that amount of time as well, trying to like work through that and qualify as well, that's mentally draining as much as physically.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a massive dump after I qualified. After that tournament in Ivory Coast, there was like, when I came off the semi-final, I won the semi and I knew I'd qualified, I was like crying all day. Like it was mental. I couldn't control my emotions. It had been so hard for so many months, and just like pretending like everything was good. I've just got to compete. Yeah, it was like a little bit scary, to be honest, because I'm like, what's going on? What's wrong with me? And Paris was similar. You're super upset that day, and you sort of like, what am I doing now? I don't know if I'll get this chance again. But you wake up the next day, it's a little bit better. go to the Olympics, you watch other sports, wake up the next day a little bit better, and eventually it's all right.
Would you do anything different when you go to the next Olympic Games?
But I do anything different.
Whether that
Win. Or do better in the competition, maybe.
Don't we all?
Yeah. I think, not my approach, just hopefully, I mean, you never know exactly what the circumstances are going to be, but hopefully you can just go there healthy so you can be super confident and just fight better. I think that's probably the only thing.
Would there be anything different?
Not massively. No. I think the only thing I guess am yet to experience and tick off is the day of fighting at the Olympics. Like I lost in the first round in Rio, lost in the first round of Paris. It's like experiencing the full day. Like going from the morning, your first match at 10, second round at 11, third quarterfinals at 1, finals block in the afternoon. Like that would be the dream, I guess.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, Josh, take us through this moment here.
So this was at the Commonwealth Games 2022, and it had been a hard couple of a year, I guess. Like I decided I wanted to get back to judo after Tokyo and have another crack, and my brother and I both qualified for the Com Games. He had knee surgery about 6 or 7 weeks before the Com Games.
Wow.
Just had a bad accident at training, had knee surgery. They were like, give it 4 weeks rest. Surgery, 4 weeks rest, 2 weeks essentially to train for the Commonwealth Games. So that was a pretty tough couple of weeks together. We obviously wanted to experience like a positive experience together as well. Went to the Com Games. I think we were both top 2 seeds at the Commonwealth Games. I lost in the semi. Super close match to actually a good friend of mine from England.
Okay.
Nathan lost in the quarters, came back in repechage. You have a break before the finals block. I was like pretty nervous because Nathan had someone good that he had fought before in the bronze match. I was like, with the preni he's done, I don't know if he's going to win this. I had an easier match. I thought I was going to be all right, but I was more nervous for him. So I won my match. About 10 minutes later, I ran around the back. Nathan wins, throws the bloke for Ippon, which is like the maximum score in judo. Wins, goes mental. Mum and dad are there, which is cool. They hadn't come and seen us compete since Rio, I want to say. It was like overseas. So, my mum and dad were there. My auntie was there. Nathan's partner was there. And then sort of like right after we got our medal, everyone sort of cleared out and we were standing on the mat doing a little interview with Channel 7. So it was pretty cool. That was a cool day.
Let's play it out for you. Okay, sweet.
We have the bronze brothers of the Katz clan, bronze medalists in the judo boys. I know how you guys have gone today. It's well documented, but I want to ask Mum, what was that like watching up in the stands today?
Extremely nervous,
Tell you a funny story
and lots of tears at the end. By the time it had all finished, lots and lots of tears. But
you look like you were riding every hit, every bump.
Oh, it was terrible. I'd much rather be fighting, but that was a long time ago.
Well, speaking of that, you know judo well, right? You represented Australia 34 years ago.
Thank you for reminding me how long ago it was. But yeah, no, a long time ago. Yep. And so yeah, it's been great. And so Rob was my coach, and now coaches the boys as well. So it's great. Yeah, to be a family affair.
Dad, you said you were a little bit relieved at the end of all that.
Oh, absolutely, no question. I mean, it's a huge build-up and very stressful, and I love being part of it, part of their preparation and part of their competition, and being here was super, absolutely super.
You must be immensely proud of these two boys.
Completely proud, no question. Good stuff.
Nath, you said at the end there you were getting towed up. You turned it around in the last minute. What did you do?
Yeah, I was struggling. I don't know. I knew if I just hung in there, like I haven't felt great today. I've had a hard prep, and I knew if I just hung in there, then I could make something happen, and pulled something out, and he went over. So happy days.
What is it like having that medal around your neck?
Yeah, huge. Well, it wouldn't have been a great interview if I was standing here without one. And Josh had one.
I have to leave him out of it, I think.
I was thinking that when I was stood at the marshalling and Tinker won gold and Josh already had bronze. I'm like, man, it's going to be a bad bus ride home if I'm by myself. So no, I'm very happy and super happy to be here with Mum, Dad, Josh, Grace, Jackie. Like it's amazing.
Josh, what's it like to have two Com Games bronze medalists in the family? You're one of them.
Yeah, it's amazing. I couldn't really, I think, be fully relieved after I finished because I knew Nathan was still coming out, and I was sort of like trying to run through the marshalling as fast as I could just to get back up into the stands. But the feeling was amazing as soon as I saw Nathan win, and we've been on this road together, so it feels unreal.
What's the brotherly relationship like when it comes to judo? Is it a supportive one? Is there a lot of rivalry?
No, definitely supportive. We both push each other to be the best we can, and I've had a pretty good year, which I think has motivated Nathan even more to come back from some struggles he's had earlier this year. So being back here together on the same stage and fighting on the same day as well is special. That it's memories we'll never forget for sure.
Done very well. I'm sure you've made everyone proud. Certainly made us proud at home. Well done.
Thank you.
All right. So when it comes to the professional sports side and competing, that's one thing that is relatively unregulated. And my kind of opinion on that is, especially in countries like Australia, it's going to become harder and harder for professional athletes to thrive because of life just costs so much money. You then probably also have to get a secondary source of income. So many people have to be in a privileged position to actually pursue their dreams. And how was that like for you managing that?
Yeah, judo is one of those sports. I was really lucky. My brother and I were really lucky. Our parents supported us a lot when we were growing up. And once you can get onto even just representing Australia, it's still not loads of support. They might pay for half of your trip. So if you're away in Europe for 3 weeks and it costs you $5,000, you're still up for half of that, or your parents are up for half of that. So even once you make an Australian team, it's not all sorted. It's really once you can get to an Olympic level that everything is sort of taken care of, which is tough. There's not that many people go to the Olympics from all the people that are doing the sport, and it's tough. And you have to explain to young athletes and their parents from a pretty early age, they have to be all in. And my brother and I now, we have a business, we got a side business separate to judo that we do a lot of speaking, mentoring in schools, younger athletes, some corporate stuff too. And one of the biggest things we say to younger athletes is you have to be all in. You just dip your toe in, you go half in, half out. You just won't get there. It's too hard anyway. I know so many people have been all in and didn't quite get to an Olympics anyway. So if you're a little bit out, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, it's not going to happen. So
that are separate from the actual sport is 100%. Are the biggest for sure.
Yeah, I heard a really good quote. It was by famous Olympic wrestler Jordan Burroughs. He was saying, "My kids will wrestle." He's like, "Imagine if my dad was Picasso and he never taught me how to paint." He's like, "I'm one of the best wrestlers ever." He's like, "I'm going to teach my kids how to wrestle. Even if they don't want to be good at it, they're going to learn from me how to do it." I'm like, yeah, fair enough. I'm not the 5-time world champion or Olympic champion, but I'm going to teach my kids what I know because my dad taught me and I'll do the same thing.
Yeah. We'll circle back to the chicken and the egg.
Yeah. Oh, so it's like a chicken and the egg. What comes first? You have to invest a lot of time and money into getting yourself to a good level. And then you get supported, but then it's also the argument that you need to support somebody to get to that level because not everybody has enough support to get themselves there. So it's tough. I mean, in a perfect world, let's fund every kid that wins a medal at the nationals, and then they'll all be really good. But there's not enough money to do that. So there's kids that win the nationals, and then if they want to be good, their parents are gonna have to send them to overseas without any funding. And if they do well enough, eventually they'll get picked up on the squad. They get a little bit of support, they do better, they get a bit more support, and that's just how it is. And until judo probably wins an Olympic gold medal and the funding goes through the roof, then it's going to be like that for a little while.
And I think it's important to recognise as well, even if you do get to the Olympic level, you found it as well. You had the Olympics, and then the down after that is even when you get to that level, it's not going to be all sunshine.
I'm still waiting for my $1 million check. I thought it was going to come after the second Olympics, and it didn't happen. So I mean, our parents knew that, they had been involved in judo at a high level, and it's better now than it was then. They got the zero.
Well,
and now we know at least that a lot of the opportunities I get are because of judo. I get I can grow my business. I can use my platform as an athlete to grow my personal business but only if you want to grow it. If you just expect that you come back from the Olympics and everyone's going to want to give you money to just be you.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. Maybe if you win a gold medal, maybe if you're
Ray Gun.
Maybe if you're Ray Gun, but even still, your profile is nothing unless you use it. So, unless you are on a contract in a professional team where you're making 150, 200 grand a year or plus millions, maybe in some of the sports, then it's ultimately up to you how you can make a living from your sport. You can make a living, but it's not going to be just from competing.
Yeah. Wow. Boys, putting it out to the audience, any thoughts, comments, or queries to finish it off? Yeah. Jack, anything?
All good.
Josh Katz, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
What an episode. Thank you so much, Josh. Thanks, boys. What a time. It was so good.
Ela tem mexer com menos vilão. Folga de camarão, tem grife nas caras, o polícia fala. Minha